So, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming. It's a quite packed room. How many of you knows about art and loves art? Okay, I will speak about art. So, that's the agenda, more or less. We would like to quickly introduce the arguments we would like to talk about. Of course, we would like to explain which is the connection between graph and art. We believe there's a strong connection between those two topics. I mean, we can use graph to improve knowledge about art. We would like to describe the domain we are building, and we would like to explain the Wikipedia data we imported into Neo4j to catch up as much as information as possible about art. But this is not only the data source we would like to use. For the moment, we just have that. And then we would like to talk about some analysis we are running about, in particular, Van Gogh artworks, which is the author, the artist we are now mainly focused on because we love him. And then we would like to close the session talking about the next step. We have tons of things to do because we started the project just 2 months ago. So even if we started thinking about the project a year ago, we just started to implement it some months ago. So my name is Lorenzo. Thank you for coming again. I'm the CEO of a company which is called LARUS Business Automation, which is based in Venice. We are from Italy. We build open source project, and we are the one and only, or number one, solution partner for Neo4j in Italy. We are delivering solutions which are based, of course, on Neo. And
okay. Hi, I'm Enrico. I'm Lorenzo colleague and baggers. And I'm very happy to be here in the land of graph. We come from Italy, okay? Now it's the land of the store procedure. So I feel like Marty McFly in Back to the Future Part 2 when he traveled into the future. So I'm very happy to be here and present our project. Okay. We're introducing our project. We want to show art in a different way, that it's not this way. So sometimes art is boring. I remember when I was young, my teacher tried to teach art. It was very, very, very boring. And say, that artist has painted that art was in that period, blah, 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 blah. So we like the right, we like show art with the ingredients, color, for example, with the right technology, Neo4j, okay, we are here. And with the help of our master, Jim and Michael. Art okay become amazing. So we decided to start developing our project to show and to explain, not to explain artist by artist, but to show the different kind of relationship that every artist has, and who has influenced him, who has influenced who, and the different period that in which the art has improved.
Mm-hmm. So the idea, as written in the previous slide, is to try to experiment new emotions. That's the idea. Maybe not everybody knows about art or is really passionate about art, but the idea of experimenting new emotion, the idea of improving curiosity, could be the right way to attract people to art. And that's what we would like to realize with our project. So, as I mentioned before, the we strongly believe that there's a great connection between art and graph, because graphs can help us to improve knowledge. For example, we would like to understand which were the influencers of an artist, the cities he visited, so to understand which climates and other notes influenced the opera of the artist. Let me just show a very quick example. As you probably know, Van Gogh was retired in a mental clinic when he was in Arles, in southern part of France, where he started painting lots of copies of many artists, because he needed to spend his time while he was in the mental clinic. And one of the most famous paintings he realized is the Siesta by Vincent Van Gogh. In reality, is a copy of the Millet artwork, which is called the same way. Millet is a realist, so it's referred to the period previous than the Impressionism and the post-Impressionism that came after the realism. And after that, also Dalí was strongly influenced by the Angelus of Millet. He also wrote a book about that. He also understood that in his opera there was a secret hidden behind the opera. It's a grave of the two of the family that is represented here, and in many of his artworks you can find again a replica of the same subject. So this is only a very simple example of how artists can be connected. And that's the focus of our project, try to find through Wikipedia and other kind of open data source, try to find which connection exists between artists. And we are just starting to analyze the data we recently imported, and some interesting aspects are arising from that. Another example is if we start from common topics, everybody knows colors and emotions. We would like to implement connection between a color analysis that we can easily run by taking images of the artworks, trying to understand which is the average color which is represented. So if you try to enter the Neo4j project, you will have a search bar where you will type red, and the system will find all the artworks which have an average color red, and then we will try to connect the color to the emotion. There are many books about that. The connection, even if the connection changed culture by culture, we can try to connect the color red, for example, which means love, to some artworks that represents love. So if you just type love, the system will find artworks that represent the emotion of love, but also propose artworks that are connected with this link to the project. The art domain is, as I mentioned before, still focused on Van Gogh, also because 2015 is an important year. We have lots of celebration around Europe about that, so you can check it. The domain is quite simple. In reality, we have artists that produce artworks which are exposed in museums and so on. This is very simple, but starting from that simple model, which is represented here. We would like to find connection and other information from open source data sources. We would like to analyze documentation to understand if there are interesting information about the artist's operas by running a sentiment analysis on that. And then we would like to go through color analysis of the artworks. To import data, with Wikipedia data, we decided to start with the XML dump. Maybe we could have decided to use DBpedia, maybe better. But for now, even if we have more work to do, it provides more flexibility because we can analyze the text of every page and try to find some words which we are interested in. So we have, for every Wikipedia page, we create a node. We create, for every link from a page to another, we create easily, very simple, a relationship. And for every namespace, we have a label. Those are common arguments about graph. So we have Wikipedia pages, which are collected in Wikipedia category, template, portal, project, and files. Then we use the Wikipedia info boxes, which are the one you can find on the right of the pages, to collect a domain-specific argument. In an info box, you can, in an info box, you can find, you can find some information which are very specific and interesting for our domain. So we parse the content of the info box to create domain-specific nodes. So in our Neo4j domain, we create a connection between the artwork and the Wikipedia artwork page. So we know that there's a source that talks about artwork and so on, artists, etc. And next release aims to import other data from museum APIs and from the CDOCS CRM standard, which is it's a standard for the cultural heritage information. Many museums expose data that way, for example.
Okay. As Lorenzo said before, we have implemented a sentiment analysis in our project, and we are testing our sentiment analysis framework on Van Gogh letters. Van Gogh wrote 1,000 letters in his life, and they are collected on vangoghletters.org. Our first approach was to model the letter as a pantry bank, and so start from the leaves to the root to computing the sentiment of the letter in a recursive way. So to find the polarity if it's positive or negative. So for example, on the left side we have a neutral polarity.
In the leaf you have the word of the letter.
Yeah.
My dear
Each node is a word.
Thanks for.
On the right side we have two nodes, green, that is a positive polarity. But to do this it's not possible to have a recursive query. So in Cypher we have no recursive query, so we have to implement this approach in a programmatically way. And so we decide to not do this because we are lazy. So we prefer another approach with we use a way that for us is very simpler. We want to match the we use a pattern matching in a linked list to find a specific part of the sentence of the letter and find the polarity. For example, my dear Theo, thanks for your letter. I was glad to hear that you go back safely. We have a part, we have the adjective after the verb that has a positive word, and we have the adverb safely. So only in Neo4j it's very easy to implement a pattern match and calculate the polarity of the sentence and of the letter, of course.
We just look for verbs followed by an adjective which is attached to a positive word. So this is a simple sequence to understand that we have some positiveness in the letter. Of course, we have to improve the research because there are in the English language many rules, but the idea is to follow a pattern matching approach, which is very easy and super fast with Neo. We also try to go with the sentence redundancy analysis. I mean, we tried to understand if inside the letter we have lots of words that are replied, part of sentences that are replied. We started with this approach, which is by Gavson of the University of Illinois, but the same way it's too complex, so we decided to find the same as before, tuples inside linked lists. So if we have letter inside here, we can find some words that are replied, and we create nodes that express, in reality we create a redundancy tree, which represent the part of the letters which is replied. Then we went through the color analysis. Enrico, we have just 1 minute, so we would like to show you the live demo. This is the result, the overall result of his opera.
Yeah.
So we have represented in a timeline all his artworks. Every node represents the average color of his opera, and the sentiment analysis is represented over there with a face smiling or crying.
So all the paintings about Van Gogh from 1884, 1889, and if we zoom, we can show here the detail of the painting, and here is the average color about that painting.
Here is interesting to observe that in the beginning of his life, his painting was a little bit darker. Then when he moved to the southern part of France, his colors started to be more close to his famous yellow. So you can see lighter colors. And that's the result of our work. So thank you so much for coming. If you have some questions, we can see later.